What is up, guys? This is Luke, here with Leo.
And I'm Leo. Hang on. Sorry, let's start that one again.
Messed it up already, we're 5 seconds in. What is up, guys? This is Luke Hill for Kickaroo.
And I'm Leo Waldorf.
Virtual Leo.
Virtual, as you say, Leo.
Yeah, absolutely. So this one we're going to talk about Ryzen 5000. It's been a hot topic for a few weeks now. Launched back in early November. Fundamentally superb. Shame you can't really buy anything right now, but I mean, that's just 2020 in a nutshell, isn't it?
I was going to say, there's a theme developing here. So shortly before the launch, before Luke's launch review of the 12 and 16 cores, I did a video which was based on Intel had done a presentation about 11th gen Rocket Lake on the desktop. And I did a video which was AMD Ryzen 5000 Zen 3 has already beaten Intel 11th gen. I was fairly confident I knew what the AMD was going to do because we knew about Zen 2. Add on about 20% equals hurrah. And then you take the Intel still on 14 nanometer and you go, oh, they've taken off 2 cores. They will take off 2 cores going from 10 down to 8. They will add PCI Express Gen 4. It kind of writes itself. And that's what I did back then. Before Luke's reviews, I said the 12 and the 16 looked pretty good, bit expensive, but fine. I thought the 8 looked outrageously expensive. And the 6, compared to the current 6, the Ryzen 5, also expensive. They haven't yet, they've brought out the 4 models, all X, haven't they?
That's right.
And we assume there's more coming. And that's me, I'm done. What do you think?
Yeah, so I think the one in particular I like, I mean, you have to be impressed by the 5950X. And because the 3950X was a really impressive chip. I mean, 16 cores on a mainstream platform, easy to manage with cooling, easy to manage with power, cheap motherboards if you want, was really, really quite good. Especially nowadays where you hear more people, freelancers, video editing, doing actual 3D rendering and tough stuff on the computer. The 5950X just accelerated that. But the one I really like is the 5900X. I really, really like that. I think it hits, I know £510 in the UK is a lot of money, but I think that 12 cores hits a nice sweet spot. Big chunk of cash, good frequencies. I really like that chip. But as you say, the 8 core was overpriced, quite frankly. And it's interesting, actually, because one of the key criticisms here has been AMD increased the price by £50 or $50 roughly across the board. And I thought this was a bit of an odd move. Because a $50 price increase on a $750 16-core chip, it's not a big deal. A $50 price increase on a $250 chip, that's a big deal. And I think in those kind of middle sections, so particularly the Ryzen 7 5800X, the price increase actually led Intel back into the picture, which is bizarre.
Oh, absolutely. The thing is that the $50 differential from Ryzen 3000 and Ryzen 5000 is... it's slightly more than that because, of course, you don't get a box cooler. The box cooler is perfectly decent. Now, the fact you might say, my 12 core is never going to run on the stock cooler, therefore I'm never going to use it, rather. Absolutely fine. But if they're not supplying the cooler, that has to, A, reduce their costs, and B, it has to make the shipping easier. Mm-hmm. So where's my saving? If you took out the cooler and you charged me the same money, I'd consider that to be a small increase. So it's 50 more, 70, 80, not sure. So they really have percentage-wise shoved up the price quite significantly. And they've done it because they can, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think another point that somebody commented, or a few people commented underneath the videos, was actually when we're focusing on this £40 or $50 price increase, that doesn't really tell you the entire picture. Because previously, if you look at the 8 core, it's a $50 price increase versus the 8 core X part. But realistically, everybody was buying the 8 core lower powered X parts. So the Ryzen 7 3700X. And that's like £300 in the UK versus like over 400, if I remember correctly. I can't remember off the top of my head. Check the review. Over 400. So that's a big price increase at that point. So I think that was actually a fair point, that $50, you think, okay, maybe I can stomach it. I'm going to complain, but maybe I can stomach it. But when you're talking £100 plus, that is a sizable chunk of money.
Well, particularly when you consider AMD has had this kind of incremental discounting thing going on as the product slightly ages month by month. And then they had those XT parts. And then you had the new parts. So even the question of what exactly you're comparing to which part exactly, and as you say, with the 8-core, we had the, oh God, I forgot the model codes, 3700 and 3800. So there's the thing about if you could buy an 8-core part, the range of prices was significant from, sorry, you sighed.
No, I breathed in, sorry.
Oh.
I had to breathe in.
I thought I said something awful. So the you can't say, the AMD Ryzen 7 or whatever, because it covers a multitude of sins. And then along comes these new fellas, and it's like, okay, they're really hitting the money. And the thing is, Intel 10, oh God, let's get this right. 10th gen, is it Cascade Lake? I've lost track of the model.
Comet Lake. Wait, Cascade Lake's the high-end desktop.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's just what they call it. Intel 10th Gen Comet Lake S, by right, should be dead, particularly with the need to put it on a Z490 motherboard. And yet, AMD's managed to give it some life, which is kind of extraordinary, really, because the thing is, Comet Lake S 10th Gen, it's not bad. It's really not bad.
It is.
Which is why it's so sad when I did that video about 11th Gen being dead on arrival, dead before it's even been conceived. Because if you take off 2 cores, go from 10 down to 8, unless they do something really impressive with pricing, it hasn't got a prayer. Whereas if they've kind of taken 10th Gen and improved it for 11th Gen, I do not consider adding PCI Express Gen 4 to be a significant improvement. It's just an essential. So the whole Intel thing, messy. So Intel 10th Gen was waiting to have a stake driven through its heart by AMD. Out comes Zen 3 Ryzen 5000. Breathing room, which was totally unexpected.
Yeah, it was bizarre. And I don't want to sound like we're being overly critical here, because, I mean, Zen 3, what they've done with Zen 3 is it's impressive. Look, it's highly impressive. They now are the gaming champs, roughly equal, or, slightly faster in general in gaming. The compute performance still proves superb. The frequencies are really good. But like you say, they let Intel back into the picture, and it was a bit of a bizarre one, because subtle changes, namely to the price, I guess, could have really kept the pressure on Intel. But like you say, that 10850K in particular is a really stubborn thorn in the side of the entire Zen 3 lineup from, okay, maybe not 6-core, but between the 8-core and the 12-core, about £440 in the UK for 10 cores of Comet Lake S, 5 gigahertz, 5.1 gigahertz easily. Z490 motherboards are actually comparably priced to some of the reasonable B550 or cheap X570 boards. So, yeah, I mean, okay, let's not make any kind of mistake about it. The AM4 platform is a far superior platform. Far, far superior, even in B550 form.
And exactly, I was going to say, and I think that you and I have come to the view in the past few months, which is it's hard to see why you'd buy X570 when B550 exists. And B550, I don't think you can spend £300 on a B550.
I think there's the Aorus Master, isn't it? Which is like the flagship type board, which was about £300. Okay. But I mean, that was a really high-end board.
Really high-end. Generally speaking, 250 and then 200 and down. Whereas the X570, you can double it. Now, all the 500 and 600 is the extreme end of the scale. But an X570 for 300 up is not out of the question. So you're talking a significant premium. And for that, you get PCI Express Gen 4 on chipset as well as on processor. Okay, in a world where we have one graphics card and and how many add-in cards do you run inside your computer, sir? Now, some people will say, I want loads of Gen 4 storage, and that's fair enough. Most people don't. So the B550, it's really good, a lot cheaper, and it's got a passively cooled chipset, so no fan. And that's well worth having. So in that context, socket AM4 and now B550, if AMD had brought out B550 when they brought out X570, that would have given them an extra couple of pats on the back from me for sure.
Absolutely. I think B550, and again, that was something that got quite a bit of criticism because it was a price increase to B450. But I think a lot of people didn't realize that, it was a price increase. But my word, you were getting so many more features, and the motherboards in general were just far superior. I mean, I think you're working on a B550 motherboard at the moment, aren't you? I've worked on a bunch of B550. Have you got it there to shop? Ooh, nice blurry. Ah, there we go. There we go. It's an ASRock. Was that? Is the
ASRock
Extreme 4? Was it?
B550 Extreme 4, and I have to say, I quite like it.
Exactly. And how much is that? Sub £200?
There's a bit of goings on there. You're finding it listed SRP, MSRP, apparently 220 or some such, but Everett's on sale at 189, which is, and this is the irony, relatively expensive because an awful lot of B550 is like 150. So you're into the what features do you get, how does it perform? But the very fact that something this is priced under £200, and I'm going, it'd be nice if it was a bit cheaper. X570, I wouldn't be having that conversation at all.
No, precisely.
So there's the thing. But you mentioned features there, which segues us nicely into PBO2. So there was news snuck out yesterday evening, I think, about Precision Boost Overdrive 2. And what's that, Luke?
Well, it seems to be just mainly an extension of Precision Boost Overdrive, which, as we've mentioned in the past, the way the AMD chips work is they have Precision Boost, which is basically the stock clocked formula, so the out-of-the-box formula. So it takes in sprinklings of the recipe, so thermals, electrical current, motherboard current available, power budget, and it takes all of these input parameters and then boosts the frequency on all the cores or several of the cores or one of the cores. Absolutely superb. Precision Boost Overdrive is the one that takes it a step further, where you can remove some of the shackles, give more power budget, and you can push the clocks further. But PBO2 tweaks this slightly, where now you can, it seems, include undervolting. So I guess a comparison would be, if ever you've used laptops, or Intel laptops in particular, which always hit their TJ max of 99 degrees and then always throttle back. It's like undervolting on the laptops, where that, for quite a while now, has been a really good way to overclock the processor, because you reduce the voltage, therefore you can drive higher current for your same power budget, and in theory, that helps you hit higher clock speeds while staying within those power and thermal parameters.
Now, it's a leap in, because as ever, you've done the Luke and you've gone down to the nuance and avoided the bigger picture. So PBO2, we understand, is going to come with a particular version of AGESA, which is going to be therefore rolled into BIOSes for your motherboards. We're expecting it during December, so let's say mid-December, on 400 and 500 series chipsets, and you need a Ryzen 5000 CPU. Therefore, and also there's talk about it seems to have biggest performance gains where you've got 2 core complexes rather than just the one, and you've got not all the cores populated, which basically means you're 12 core, because you've got 2 per 6. So you've got rather than 1 by 8 or 2 by 8 for the 16, you've got 2 by 6. Therefore, you've got the headroom, which takes you back to your friend, the 5900X. By the sound of it, that is going to get a significant uplift, which makes it all the more surprising to me that AMD launched Zen 3 before PBO2 was ready.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I wasn't aware of that point with regards to the dual CCD and cores available.
That's my understanding, and obviously we've not seen it yet. This is all based on what we've been told, but apparently so. And you can kind of see it in the sense of you got more material to work with. You got the space, therefore you can take more thermal of it. I mean, after all, what could you do with the 16? When the port, how come it doesn't melt anyway?
Yeah, well, the 16 core was really good with Precision Boost Overdrive, because obviously the power shackles out of the box meant that it was in the 4 gigahertz region. When you remove those shackles and you give it all the power budget to play with and good cooling as well, it flew. It absolutely flew.
But how is it that the 8 core performs well, the 12 core clocks higher, and the 16 core clocks higher? This is totally wrong. This is exactly the opposite of everything we've grown to understand over the last ever.
But so that's a good point. Is it wrong, or is it what we're now programmed to understand based on what Intel has been delivering for so many years? Because Intel has been the market for a number of years until Zen.
Of course, but no, of course you're correct. But the idea that the 12 core, the Ryzen 5000 12 core, could actually run at a higher clock speed than the 16 core. To me, that's like, well, yeah. So if they're going to bring out a little tweak that means it does it, it's like, I'm on board. unfortunately, of course, it's going to drive demand, you think, even higher. Well,
You
at the
would
moment,
think.
yes. One thing I do not have on the shelves behind me is a Ryzen 5000 CPU, and I blooming want one.
Oh,
Um,
quick, let me grab one. Aha.
yeah.
What's this one? This one is a Ryzen 5. There you go, 5000.
Yay,
Nice.
well done.
Check back for the
Um,
reviews soon. Check our other
yeah.
reviews of Ryzen 5000.
So there's that, and of course, whereas at the moment you might be thinking to yourself, oh well, they're discounting Ryzen. In fact, I think you can still buy Ryzen 2000s if you look around, but Ryzen 3000 it's discounted. Oh, I'll go for that. That makes sense. Well, this is giving you another reason why you want to spend the extra money if PBO2 works as described on Ryzen 5000. It's like, damn it, this high pricing, they'll be able to stick to their guns.
Yeah.
No discounts from AMD.
No, I guess, again, to circle back to the pricing point, the more you look at it, the more it seems that the pricing increase was absolutely justified. I mean, the performance is better. The platform is superb. It is very good. But it does open up the debate also. If you were buying right now, say you had £500 to... okay, let's go £420, £430 to spend. Would you buy an 8-core Zen 3 or a 12-core Zen 2? And in that example, of course, it depends.
Yes, very much, because it's that thing of, are you gaming? Are you doing video editing? What are you doing? But as I've mentioned in the past, I have a 12-core Threadripper 2000, so I'm on TR4, so I'm on a different platform. But I've been looking at, should I leap across and make the thing? And I have to say, this PBO2 thing, it's like, oh, that's another blooming nail in the wallet of Waldock. Because it's another thing. Because if I jump across to 12 cores of AM4 Ryzen 5000, believe you me, that's going to go faster than my blooming Threadripper.
Because your Threadripper 2000 is Zen Plus, isn't it? So the increase from Zen Plus to Zen 2 was absolutely massive for what we do, which is working with video, with files, with compression, that type of stuff. The higher cache is really quite useful, actually. And then Zen 3 extends even further.
When you say cache in this context, is that CACHE or CASH? Because I keep hearing ka-ching.
Cache memory, not cache money. Although it is higher cache money too, I guess.
Exactly. I mean, when Threadripper 3000 came out, it's like, oh, that sounds interesting. It's like, oh God, how much? It's like £1,400, 2,000, and then what's the 64 core? Is it $4,000 or $4.5? It's just like, oh wow.
Yeah, it's $4,000 US dollars, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, quite exactly. So it's just like, youch. Good,
Yeah.
impressed, but it's like, ooh. So.
It's funny you mentioned Threadripper, because I absolutely love Threadripper. I really do. It's Threadripper 3000. Really, really do. It's one of my favorite products in the past. I know I've been doing this job best part of a decade. It's one of my favorite products in that entire time period. But even for my own use case, I think AM4 serves you just fine.
Well, this is it. And the idea of going from big, meaty Threadripper back to tiddly little AM4 part with all these sticky outy pins and so on, and where you don't actually have to have an instruction book to be able to put the processor in the motherboard like you do a Threadripper and all the rest of it. It'd be like, well, that would be nice. But yeah, PBO2, it's like, but I cannot get my head around it because I only learned about this yesterday. Did AMD mean to launch this with Ryzen, with Zen 3 Ryzen 5000? Or have they just kind of hurried it along for some reason? The timing strikes me as really peculiar, but interesting.
Yeah, it's a good question. And I think that's another reason where AMD deserves credit, because we've given them some criticism here, namely the pricing. But they deserve credit too, because these are GSA profiles, the way they keep updating them. Now, I know in the early AM4 days, it was tough from the CPU and the motherboard front. And I know in the early X570 days with Zen 2, it was tough. But the way they update these AGESA profiles, they're giving you basically a free shot in the arm of extra performance. That's not something we've seen for a long time on microcode updates or BIOS updates from Intel. So you have to give them credit there. And yeah, okay, they might introduce some bugs here or there, which is annoying, but you're also getting better performance once those bugs are ironed out. So give them credit there.
Because it's AMD doing these updates, the consequence is when they roll out to motherboard manufacturers, they appear to work.
Absolutely.
They're not saying to the motherboard manufacturers, here's some stuff to work with, do it, when you're going to get a whole variety of good, bad, and indifferent. When they roll it out, either it works well across the piece or it doesn't work, or whatever. And then sometimes if they slip once or twice, and AMD they bring out a patch pretty darn quick. So it seems like a very good way of working. So yes, oh god, we all sound like a bit of a chorus here, but well done, AMD.
Yeah, we'll give them criticism with one hand and give them praise on the other hand, and that's perfectly fair. I think they deserve a bit of both.
Yeah. Right, that wraps this one up, I think. Ryzen 5000 Zen 3, Luke loves it lots.
Let's see what PBO2 brings and the future updates. Excited to see that. I've been Luke Hill for Kickaroo.
And I'm Remote Leo.
Thanks for watching. Let us know what you think in the comments section down below. Are our complaints justified, whether it's personal or AMD or pricing? Is Leo having an effect? Am I turning into the grumpy one here? Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. If you like this video, like, subscribe, do all that YouTube stuff, and check back for more content.